who have predispositions to
Mm-hmm.
like lacking empathy. Like, why would God create like a world like that where people are gonna like lack empathy and are gonna be more inclined to like manipulate people and deceive people? Like, I feel like that's not necessary for anything.
It everything serves a purpose. Like the one guy said, the only good thing he said is there can be a positive to harm, learning what not to do and learning what to do if something would be harmful to you. So now let's say I'm a new believer and I just naively believe that everybody is capable of good, everybody is capable of change. That psychopath would be an example that not everybody is capable of good. That
Well, well, yeah,
that serial unaliver is an example of not everybody is
yeah, but
it'll
why
be
like, but like why like if God is all good, why create that like serial unaliver in the first place? Right? Like God knows the future. He knows like he's gonna create a psychopath, and the psychopath is gonna go and unalive like a bunch of innocent people. Like God still chooses like, yes, I'm gonna create the reality where like this psychopath like unalives a bunch of like innocent people and presses play. Like for one, would you say he's responsible when he like does that?
yeah, I would say he's responsible.
And then like why would a good God do that?
I think a good guy would do that because without the option to choose what you wouldn't be. You would not have no identity, no personality. You would
Well, yeah.
just
Oh, go ahead. My bad.
yeah, you wouldn't have no personality, no identity. There would be nothing different. Me and you would basically be the same person. And if we were all the same people, not only would that be boring, but and I'm not saying it boring as far as what's going on in the world is entertainment to him, but it's also an experience.
Well, yeah, but like God could like there's so many experiences you could have without people getting like smurdered, right? Like literally, like I mean, like people can visit Italy. You can have your favorite ice cream. You could listen to music, go to concerts. Like I don't really see the necessity of like we need like schmurder in order to
Yeah,
like
but when
um,
someone I'm gonna put this like this is a personal experience. I had a little rough patch like with my mom. We didn't. I'm not saying it was like a real bad relationship. It was just like she did basically. I felt like, in my opinion, I felt like she could have did a better job. You know, and I got a best friend, real close with him, and his mom passes. And of course, the first thing we do, being young at that age, we question God, like why. And for him, I believe that purpose was to build a level of resiliency and to become more sufficient. For me, it made me cherish my mom despite my opinion about what she could have did better. So it serves a multitude. The harms serve a multitude of purposes where it would be impossible to like literally explore every single last one. But I'm just giving an example where hit the harm that happened to his mom and him losing her was a ray of light for me to cherish my mom and to advocate despite the disappointments parents can be, that we can still be grateful for them and still honor the good that they have done.
yeah, like I understand what you're arguing. Like you'd be arguing like a character growth type like argument. But I don't think like all evils are necessary for like character growth, right? So like of course like when you go to the gym, maybe like getting sore and like, struggling to lift weights could like increase your self discipline. but like I don't really see the need for like other things that are more harmful, like rape or like child torture, or like just like complete schmenocide, right? So
Hmm.
like, I mean, I guess you could argue for some like things for like some evils for like character growth, but there are other evils that are like completely unnecessary, and God could literally just have like certain things that you have to go through in order to grow, and then other things just seem completely like it doesn't really help with your growth. In most cases, it can literally be like detrimental. Like people who get raped will live their entire lives with like harm and like trauma from being raped. So like, what's the point in that?
I dealt with a certain level of trauma. I'm not gonna elaborate, but for me, I'm just gonna make it a little personal. And you're right. You are right. There are some people that get essayed, raped, and they do not recover. And but there are some people who get raped, essayed, that go on to not let that experience defeat them or keep them down. And
Yeah.
also they go on to write books, start foundations for people who have suffered or went through the same thing. So that person becomes, an advocate of recovery, of gaining yourself back, getting your identity back. And for me, I don't believe that the trauma ever um leaves, but when those memories happen, or some days you wake up and you thought it was over, and it's the trauma still in you. And so for me, it's more like I forgive again. I'm grateful again to have survived, and I forgive again because now this trauma is trying to reattach itself. This weight is trying to re-enter my life. So I forgive again, and it's a fight to keep moving forward and not let this experience defeat me, and to defeat me or my purpose to help those around me.
Yeah, but like what it kind of seems like, right, is like God is creating a problem and then fixing the problem. Like essentially, like you're saying, like you're saying there are people who are going to get grapes that are not going to recover, and
Hmm.
God knows that beforehand and still creates a world where like they get graped and they don't recover. So like that's kind of problematic. But then there's also people who like they're going to get graped and they're going to build like foundations and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, like they're building foundations to fix an issue that like God could have like not had, right? He could have created a world where nobody gets graped, right? Like how is grape like necessary for character growth? And there's other ways to have character growth that are not grape, right? You could just have everybody go through the bicycle experience and like, fall off their bike and be able to like learn how to ride a bike. Or like there are lesser like opportunities for like character growth. I don't see like why grape is like necessary for character growth.
Okay, we could use that. We could use the bike incident. I rode bikes for a fairly long time, and I had some pretty gnarly spills. But I seen from my experience, and basically, some falls are nastier than others, right?
Wait, but hold on. Before we move there, right? It just kind of seems that like God is creating a problem. Like He knows people are gonna grape if He creates this world, and yet He still creates it. And then you're saying like, maybe this could lead to like better things. But I mean, God's like creating somebody to get grape so they can fix the problem of grape that God created. So it's kind of like redundant. Like,
If his initial um purpose was to get graped, which I don't believe. If his initial purpose was for people to get graped and essayed, or whatever the traumatic experience could be, then that would be redundant. But here was the I was gonna say with the bicycle, just to keep it simple. You have people that's gonna try to ride a bike, and you have some people that's gonna fall, right? But it's also a decision after that fall, if you're gonna give up on the bike and
but
riding a bike, or you're gonna get back on the bike
That's not
and not let.
analogous. That doesn't make sense, best
yeah,
friends.
like
Oh,
like
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold
like
on,
people
hold on.
don't choose to get graped.
No,
Like,
no, I didn't.
Yeah,
Listen,
so
grape is too.
hold on one second. Next, your analogy would suggest, like Coco says, that the person is choosing to be great. Like you're choosing to get on a bike, right? Knowing that you may not be able to ride the bike successfully, or hey, you may fall, right? That's a choice. A victim does not choose to be great. I like what Coco is trying to do by making you stick to the point, right? And trying to help us understand how does great help anybody, right? If anything, we could just say, hey, hurting somebody is a no no, right? We don't need to experience force ourselves to know that it's a no no. But for your God to allow such a thing to happen and try to turn that horrible thing into good, well, that's just, again, redundant and it's kind of fucked up, right? Like, wouldn't it be better for the God to prevent that thing from happening? Right? Wouldn't it be better for grape to not even be a notion on the victim side and on the perpetrator side? Right? So much so that we don't even have to have the conversation of, well, guys, I was raped and here's my testimony. What if that didn't need to be a testimony? Right? That like what you're saying is implying that it's for the greater good or something of that nature. That doesn't make sense to me.
That's
yeah,
no, that's fair. That's fair. And dang, it slipped my mind. That's fair. And we could skip the. So is it more of? I'm trying to figure out what the argument is. Is it more of why would God create a world with evil present,
yeah.
or is He accountable?
Yeah. It's kind of like the thing in question is like, like if I was to create a robot and the robot and I if I was to create a robot and I know the robot's going to go and commit like schmenicide, right, and I unleash it on the world, am I responsible for that robot? You said yes, and like you also agreed that God is responsible. Then the next question is like, if God knows that all these evils are going to happen beforehand, and like he can create alternative worlds where these evils don't happen and he still sets the evils in motion, right? Like not only is he responsible, but like is that God even good?
I I would have to agree, yeah.
But like how is he good? Like for knowing
Because
things
just
will
for
happen.
just just for the simple fact that he has given you the opportunity to do good, it falls back on free will.
Well, yeah, but like free will's not an issue, right? Like we can have worlds where like we still have free will and we just freely choose to do good every single time that we step up to bat. And like you still have the ability to do evil, but like you just freely choose to
No,
do
no,
that.
no. That still ability to do evil would put us back where we are right now, within
We
the
know,
world
no,
of
no,
Essay and Grape.
we know. So remember with the bank analogy, right? Like whenever you walk by a bank, you choose not to rob that bank, right?
Okay, now, is it because I don't want to go to jail,
Or like,
or because it's just not right?
like that kind of depends on you, but I assume that you do it because it's not right. You have empathy, right? Like some kind of evolutionary type empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like God could literally make it that not only for like robbing a bank, but for every other like moral decision, you just simply don't do the bad thing. And you still have the free will to do the wrong thing, but you just like don't do the bad thing. Just like you walk past the bank every single time you choose not to rob it. Like we could literally just have a world where every single time people like freely choose not to lie, not to murder, not to like rob banks, and like you would still have free will. So free will is like not the issue.
I I agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree with
So
that.
like so God could create this alternative world with less evil, and He just chooses to create the world where people freely choose to do like evil things.
Okay, but it would have to put me in the space where this would be the first and possibly the only world where this exists. This type of evil exists.
Well, it doesn't really matter if it's like the first world. Like God is like, would you agree that God is all powerful?
Yeah.
And would you agree like, I mean, obviously you agree He's all knowing. Like so like it doesn't really matter if it's like the first world. God is trying to create a world. He has one chance to do it. This is his first time creating it, and he knows that he can create worlds where there's like no evil, and yet he chooses to create a world with like evil in it. So it's like you know Like
So
why?
I would only, I
How is he
would,
still good after that? You know?
okay, I would only, the only way that God would still be good and still make this world that we're living in with all these atrocities would be, this would in my opinion, this would have to be a testing ground.
Wait, but like a test for who? Because like God already knows like the end result. Like I I was studying this yesterday. I was like studying some quotes in the Bible, but yeah, like there are Bible quotes that say that God already knows like who's gonna go to heaven and hell, and he like his creation is like predestined in accordance to His will. Like God already knows like who's going to heaven and hell, like what's happening, right? So like I don't see the purpose of testing who and what.
Okay, okay, that's perfectly a logical assessment. But now we create this robot and we know it is is possible to harm other people. But was it our intention? That's the real question. Is it our intention for this robot to do these great harms?
Well, like that's kind of the thing in question because like God knows the future and yet still creates the robot. So it would seem like there's something that can be like entailed or like perceived via like his actions that like he intended for this evil to happen because he could have made it a different way, but he chose not to. So it seems like there's an intention there to create evil. Like even though he has another choice, he just like chooses to create this evil.
I have to agree with Coco. Like, what would be the point if you know everything? Like, he already knows what evil can do, right? Like, you can't surprise him, you can't make him wrong, and you can't give him any new information. So, who would it be a testing ground for? Because he's not getting anything out of it, right? He's God. He knows everything. If
Yeah, no,
anything, it's just an evil entity fucking with his creation, right? The creation that doesn't have the advantage that he has. He has the advantage of being a creator. He has the advantage of knowing all things. He has the advantage of having an eagle's eye view, right? He can see everything around him. We can't surprise him, right?
Mhm.
So putting evil into somebody in giving them quote unquote a choice, but ultimately you know what choice they're going to make. It kind of makes you evil yourself, giving them that capability. Again, back to great. Why would a God all knowing give somebody that ability to harm somebody in that way in order for humanity to even conceive of something so heinous, right? So hurtful, so damaging. It's nothing good that comes of great, right? Absolutely nothing. I don't care how many, talk shows or, group sessions you have, whatever, right, to inspire other people. Nothing good comes, sorry, there's still a lot of mental ramifications. I think you mentioned and Coco kind of mentioned how, like, in the future, right, like you still deal with that trauma. Your body keeps the score, et cetera, et cetera. And if your God, again, knows that he created you like this, knows that your body is going to keep the score, knows that the perpetrator 9 times out of 10, according to statistics, will do this again if presented the chance, and he's not just annihilating them, just like he did with other characters in the Bible for far, far less, right? Tamar's first husband, he just didn't like him because he was wicked, right? Murked him. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? If your God can do that, right, the concept of great can easily be, I don't know, Thanos snapped out of humanity. But here we are. This God is allowing these things to happen. He's inputting this desire into the perpetrator and dismissing the free will that you guys like to talk about of the victim, right? Where's the free will of the victim not to be harmed?
okay. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of valid points made, but I would have to disagree that God would insert a desire into someone to grape somebody else. I can't and won't agree that God is the one that puts these malicious intents into our bodies, into our minds, spirits to
Mhm.
grape somebody else.
Who created evil? Who takes responsibility for that in your Bible?
That would be Lucifer.
No. I'm not even being funny. No. Your God takes responsibility for it. He says, I create good and I create evil. In Genesis, what's the first one of the first things he said? He says, everything that I created is good, right? He likes it, it's perfect. So if your God creates evil, then he absolutely put the desire to great people inside of them. He is at fault for everything because he claims responsibility, not because I want him to be at fault. That's, I don't care, right? But it's your Bible, right? That tells you that. Isaiah 45:7, right? He takes responsibility. He puts his hand up and he says, I did it. I claim it.
So God,
Calamity,
okay,
all of
okay.
that.
So we can agree that God claims responsibility for good and
Creating
evil.
evil. No, he claims responsibility for creating it.
Yeah.
Right?
He
Right. So if he's creating evil and you believe that grape is an evil act, whose fault is it that grape takes place?
essentially God.
All right, there we go.
I
Okay.
mean,
That's your point, right?
well said.
Yeah. But at the same at on that same token, God made the angels, and of course the angels had to have free will. If the angels didn't have free will, they would be, and this is why I say he's all good. He made the angels, they had free will, and one chose to rebel. Took some angels with him. But God wasn't I would just say bitter about the situation. He said, okay, I had one child, it didn't pan out. I had one child and it didn't pan out how I didn't want it to. I'm not gonna choose to not ride the bike again. I'm gonna create more. But now here's where it gets complicated. Now the angels are a step above us in the sense that they're eternal. They're outside of time. So the punishment to punish them would be to unalive them, correct?
Or
But
just,
that's why I said he would be all good.
I
He
mean, like,
did this despite hold on, despite what they have done, he doesn't punish, he doesn't just shut off the robot. After one or many things that robot has done, he says, I'm not gonna shut you down, but I'm gonna put you somewhere where I limit what you can do. So I'm gonna make a lesser form robot. I'm gonna bring you back down to a lower model, but I'm gonna bring you back to a lower model, and I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna test.
How does that make sense to create something, a lesser being, still put the evil inside of them, right? Knowing that if that's your theory is like he's trying to improve what he did wrong with the angels, right?
Mhm.
How does that make sense when even after eradicating all but 8 humans, evil and wickedness still remains, right? Like I don't in the I don't understand the whole free will, like humans don't have it but angels do. That
No. Eh,
angels are not higher than God, right?
yeah.
They do his bidding, including Lucifer, Satan, right? Remember Jesus and Judas and Satan, right? When
Mhm.
Jesus gave Judas the bread to be possessed by Satan so that he could die on the cross for your sins, right? If that didn't happen, your Jesus wouldn't have died on the cross for your sins, right? So Satan is just an agent for God and for Jesus, no more, no less, right? And he doesn't even show up in your Bible that often, right? As an actual entity doing things, right? Maybe once or twice, like I don't know, but in other terms, it's just an adversary, right? But what you're talking about just it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be um hard to grasp. Um
not hard to grasp. It doesn't make sense. You're contradicting yourself, right? Like you're saying that because angels have free will, that I don't know gives them the license to run around crazy, and so
no, I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna put it like this. Okay, I have a child, right? I give my child inherits my athletic ability. Now, with that athletic ability, he can become he can strive to be a professional athlete or a super criminal. I can't, now that I have given him now that he has inherited that athleticism, I can't go into him and take that athletic ability away from him.
God, are you God? And I'm
Of
not being
course not.
funny. Are you God?
No, but can I finish my point?
Well, the point is moot, right? We can stop right there.
I just want to finish it. If
I
you
know, but
disagree, you disagree, but I just want to finish it. Cut me off mid
I
thought.
wish
I think that's
I did because it's a silly point, and I think we can move past the analogies, right?
no. At this point, you just brushing me off.
I am because it
Yeah, but
doesn't
that's
make sense
rude.
what you're. I know that's okay. It doesn't make sense what you're saying,
All right,
right?
host.
It doesn't make sense with
All
an
right,
all
host.
powerful, all knowing God.
Okay,
Right?
this no longer a
I'm
conversation.
gonna
I'm not even. I wasn't even
that's
talking
okay.
Hey,
to you. I was talking to
next
Coco.
space, next space, next space. Listen. Zena's 100% right. Some of the
That
things that you're, some of
it's
the
one thing to
things.
be right, and it's another thing to be
Okay,
respectful.
okay. So she's, instead of continuing to let you go on with things that are incoherent, because a lot of what you're saying, like, just to be 100% honest with you, is incoherent. Okay, you're contradicting yourself. And now, instead of well, Zena's literally telling you, right? Instead of continuing letting you go on with things that are incoherent and contradictory, Zena's saying, hey, let's not go there, right? You're being contradictory in this moment because XYZ, right? So let her tell you how you're contradicting, and then maybe you can say how you're not. Okay?
Go ahead.
Like, and the reason I say that is because you're limiting God's powers, right? We've already established his properties, his omni properties, right? Together, we already did that. The scenario that you're proposing, saying that you can't control how your son uses his ability, whether to rob a bank or to be an athlete, that makes absolutely no sense when we know that your God definitely believes in predestination, right? Just because you see choice B, C, and D, if God wants you to choose choice A, you're going to choose choice A no matter what, according to your book. Now, if you want to constrain God, right? If you want to take away his properties and make him like human like, I guess you may have some footing in your analogy, but that's not how your Bible presents your deity.
Yeah. No, based.
What's the point? Like,
But also, we might want to get to the other guests, but I mean, yeah.
I just
I have
want to say this final thing.
Okay, go ahead. You can say something, and then I have a question for you.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so in the sense of God being all good, that would him being fair across the board. A level of fairness to the angels and a level of fairness to us. So him not just wiping out the angels for their disobedience is him being fair across the board. It's a certain level of I would deem we can deem that he's all good because despite the level of sin or disobedience or whatever you would want to call it, he still has to keep it fair across the board.
Well, I mean, regardless of that, like, God doesn't really keep it fair, right? Like, you're saying, like, well, like you're not saying this, but other Christians would argue this. But like, some Christians say like the reason that God doesn't interact with our world in 2025 is because He wants us to have like free will, and like that's why that's the case. He wants us to have like
No, you gotta stop. You wrong right there. I ain't gonna lie.
But hold on, Coco, hold on. I'm sorry. I want you to flesh out your idea. So I think a lot of this is just from just listening for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, with you talking with Zena, with you talking with Coco. It seems like you're kind of making, and I could be wrong. Okay. It seems like you're like talking and you haven't fully fleshed out these ideas. So if you're saying like God is fair for letting all these beings that he created sin equally, my question is, what's good about that?
Sin equally?
Yeah, you said that he's fair for doing this, right? For letting the angels sin, for letting the humans sin. But sin is not good. So God allowing the angels to sin and allowing the humans to sin, I don't see that there's goodness there. So what is good about that?
You have a choice.
Okay.
That you're not held against. You're not held against your own his will. You have a choice. You chose to essay, grape, go against him.
Yeah,
That was your
what's
choice.
good about that choice?
Yeah.
The choice itself is not a good choice.
Great. That's what I think is not the fully fleshed out idea, right? Because if we recognize that the choice itself is not good and God gives that choice equally across the board, then I don't see goodness in that. Even if he hands out, hey, you have the option to grape, you have the option to grape, you have the option to grape, right? We could say that that's fair, right? And we would agree that fairness is good, but giving everybody the option to grape is not a good thing, right? That option is not good.
I agree, but with that same token, you have the option to not grape. If God gives you the option to grape, do you grape?
Well, he knows that some people are going to, right?
Yeah,
and
But
he knows
what
that before he even creates anything, right? So God, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if we've gotten somewhere, but is God responsible for the evil that's in existence, or is
yeah, we
that
got
the
to that
thing?
point.
Okay, so
Zena,
so
I
you
was
conceded that
inaudible.
point that yes, God's responsible for it, and now we're talking about if he's good for doing so, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so just like Zeno was saying, just like Coco was saying, right? God knows that this person is going to grape before he even creates them, right? So then, I mean, the same way that I'm creating, let's say my robot is a serial unaliver, right? I'm creating a serial unaliver by
yeah, but
creating
I
this
guess
robot that does harm. And God
go ahead. I'm
knowing, God knowing that somebody's going to grape means that God is creating grapists. And what's
Yeah,
good about that?
it's not that it's good. The argument we got away from it that me and Coco was kind of having was the intention, intention and capability. Now,
Does intention change responsibility?
No, not at all. I'm not arguing that at all.
Okay.
Because
Doesn't
the God that I believe in, there's consequences for those things.
sure.
Yeah, there's consequences for those things. Whether you or anybody else believes in that or not, the God that I believe in, there's consequences for that.
Okay. So God is good for giving consequences to the bad things, right? He's good for doing that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But God is not good for creating these people that need consequences. That's not
He's
good.
not good. He's not good because he created people who need consequences.
For instance, just like I said, God is not good for creating grapists.
But remember, the responsibility is shared. You created the robot, but the robot shares some accountability because it has the programming to do good or bad. The responsibility is shared. If you want to say
We're already past the responsibility part. We're talking about what makes God good for doing so, right? We see where part of this equation where God creates, the people are doing bad, and then God punishes them. Well, God is good for punishing them, right? But these other two steps, I don't see where God's good for doing those two things, right? Like God's not good for creating grapists. That's not good. Even if we're saying that the responsibility of the rapist is shared, it doesn't make him good for being responsible for that. That's not good.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is a lifetime experience. It's not just the grape or essay is the end all be all of anyone.
This is a bit of a pivot. Because what you said doesn't tell me if God is good or not for doing so.
He has to be good.
I don't think that he's good for creating grapists. That's
He
why
didn't
I'm
create rapists. He
okay.
created.
Then you're not tracking, my friend. Why? How can you tell me why I believe God is creating rapists? Why would I make a statement like that?
Because people are getting raped.
So I'll explain it one more time. Okay. So just like in my analogy with the robot, right? My robot is a serial unaliver and I create them. So I am creating a serial unaliving robot, right? The same thing is true for God. God creates knowing that people are going to be grapists. So God is creating grapists. Okay. So that's why I say that, because God has the knowledge of what they're going to do and then he creates them. What's good about that? And I'll just ask this question one more time and then I think we need to move on. Okay.
That's
By the way,
Okay. Go
by
ahead.
the way, I
Yeah.
did win a single player Fortnite match just now.
Hey, Victory Royale, baby. Get it. Are you liking the new Simpsons season?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I haven't played it yet. I'm jealous. Okay, go
So
ahead.
good.
Next space. Okay. What is good about God creating grapists?
Excuse me.
And I don't know is a reasonable answer too. I just want to say.
Totally okay to say I don't know.
No, I get that part.
Okay.
But I can't wrap my head around that he would create a rapist. If that's a fair answer.
Okay.
I can't wrap
So
my head
we don't know.
around that
Yeah. Okay.
he would create somebody to designately grape somebody.
Okay. Can you wrap your head around me creating a robot that serial unalives people?
We're actually,
I'm
like,
creating a robot that
that's
serial unalives.
That's your intention for the robot?
No. My intentions don't dictate my actions here. Because if they did, then God's intention of creating, people that were good would result that his creation was good, but we're not. So I can intend that my robot is good, but it doesn't change my knowledge that I know it's going to do the harm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm not asking the right question.
Okay. Okay, next space.
Just for the sake of time and the
Yeah,
other
we
guests,
got to move
I'm
on,
gonna-
okay?
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming up. Have a good
No
day,
problem.
okay? Thank
you
you.
too.
Also, if I could add like one tiny thing,
Yeah.
but that's up to you. But like, there is like a Bible verse that literally says like God has created certain people like designated for like wrath, and like it's literally Romans 9 chapter. It's literally Romans chapter 9 verse 22 to 23. Like God created people who are destined for hell, people who are destined for heaven. So like, I mean, given that God's like all knowing and he's creating people for these places, right? Like it wouldn't be beyond the stretch of imagination to come to the conclusion that God is creating people to grape. He creates people that he knows will grape people.
Well, even outside of the Bible, I think we see the reality of the situation is that people do these actions, right? People do this bad. So even like if we're saying, God's intention is that everybody would be good, then we would hope to see that his creation follows his intention because he created it with this intention in mind, right? If I intend to build a good, solid home, it ought not fall down, because the wind blew. That's my intention, and I have the ability to do so. But we don't see that being the case, which is, and to be honest, I didn't want to add more things to like the argument. I wanted to just reiterate, hey, if you can wrap your head around this, then we can wrap our head around something else. But that's it. Okay. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Leon is next. Who's next? Was it Leon West? Leon's next? Okay, cool. I'm sorry, guys. Again, these conversations can take a lot of routes, right? They can be a little bit long. I understand if you don't want to sit and wait, but this can also be a benefit for you because when it's your turn, I want to give you the ability and time to express your point, to argue, to do whatever. Okay. But I understand. Star, let me just ask you real quick. Star, are you a Christian? If so, how old are you? Thank you, Taylor.
Hi, I am a Christian and I'm 27.
Okay, cool. So Star, you're going to be after West. Okay, like I said, it might take a while, so I understand if you don't want to wait that long. That's totally reasonable. And feel free to leave and come back. I'm sure we'll still be talking to somebody in like an hour or two, so it'll be good. We'll be
Yeah,
here.
no problem. Take your time.
Um,
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, Leon, if I create a robot and I give it choices, but I know it is going to harm people, am I responsible?
Yes, but it's shared responsibility.
Okay. Who holds more of it? Or are we saying it's 50-50?
I'm saying it's sort of a 50-50 in a sense, like, okay, so imagine I hate going doing these examples, but okay, so if I have the knowledge and I created this being who also has the knowledge of what good and evil is, correct? So if it does
Mm-hmm.
have the knowledge of good and evil, it also knows some set of morals, some set of principles, what not to do, right? And it goes against that, which again, God would say, do not do, right? So again, I would
Sure.
say in that sense, it's some type of shared responsibility because not only is it choosing to go against morally what to do, it already knows knowledgeable of what not to do according to what God said his creator to do. So in that sense, it's shared responsibility.
Okay. I feel like you're missing a fundamental key of this, which is just that the creator has the foreknowledge. So I create a robot. I'm giving it choices. Let's say I give it a long list of rules that it should abide by, right? Hey, don't drop kick infants, okay? And I know that it's going to choose to drop kick infants. Okay? It's going to go to a nursery and it's just going to drop kick them. Okay, I already have that knowledge. Does me making the rule of not drop kicking infants, does that rule make any sense in that context?
Yes, because you're showing that you've given man the opportunity and the knowledge of what to do and what not to do and consequences
What's my foreknowledge there?
of knowing the action of what it's going to do.
And I know that it's going to disobey my rule.
Yes.
So does that render my rule moot, like useless?
Your rule useless?
Yeah.
How so?
Because I already know that it's going to disobey that rule. So for instance, you believe that my robot is responsible because it broke my rule. But I already knew that it would, and then I created a rule that I already knew it wasn't going to follow. It seems like my actions in this instance are useless. They're pointless.
How so? When you have the say so, what's going to happen to that robot?
It seems pointless because I'm creating a robot that I know is going to disobey my rule. So there's two things here that are pointless. One, I made a rule that I know nobody's going to follow. I know my robot's not going to follow. And two, I created a robot doing something, knowing that it's going to do something I don't agree with.
So you're saying the rule is void based on the actions of the robot?
Yeah, and based on my foreknowledge about those actions.
Foreknowledge of the but you give that robot knowledge and understanding with the intent that it will follow you and not do those things, correct?
Yeah. Sure, but it doesn't change my foreknowledge.
So the foreknowledge is the part that we're disagreeing on. Well, I would say in a sense we can agree that yes, God would in a sense definitely have more responsibility in that aspect, but at
Okay.
the same time, as man does too.
Okay.
Especially
It,
especially.
well, and I'm sorry. I want to. The reason why this robot analogy is so important and why I want us to focus on the robot is because when we go to God, I want to make sure that we're being consistent. I understand that every Christian that's up here sees exactly what I'm doing. You see the analogy, but I want to be clear that if I'm responsible because of X, Y, and Z, God is equally responsible because of X, Y, and Z. In both instances, both things are present, which is why I want us to focus on the robot analogy. Okay. So if it's a logical contradiction, come up and tell me how, Nick. I'd love to hear it. Anyways, Leon. So you initially started out by saying, well, this responsibility is shared 50-50. And I'm struggling to see, why is the robot responsible, and what do you mean by responsible in that instance?
Okay, so I'll put it in this aspect. So if you have a child, right?
Okay.
You've given it direction, you've given it knowledge of what not to do, what are the consequences of said knowledge and such, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if that child goes against your rules? Does that make your rules void because that child chose to go against those rules, or does that even make your rules even more
Mm-hmm.
more to the point of why you need to follow them?
Yeah, you did that thing again where you forgot my foreknowledge. So in the instance, if it's okay, I'm going to put my foreknowledge back into your scenario. I already know what my child is going to do. Okay. If I know what my child is going to do and I start creating rules against knowing what they're going to do, I've wasted my breath. Right? My rules are useless.
How are your rules useless if you created those rules with the purpose and with the intent of, if you cross those rules, there's a consequence for it?
Mm-hmm. Because I created a being knowing that it was going to break my rules. Right? And then
Knowing
Mhm.
only to highlight your power and authority over said situation, correct?
It can be.
Okay, so again, it's not bad that God foreknew this thing was going to do what it was going to do.
Okay, so
He
now we're not
instead he
talking about
gets
a
to
robot.
know.
Now we're talking about God again. No, you're good. You're
Well,
good.
no, because
But like I said,
you
I
kept
want
bringing
I
up the
want to.
foreknowledge, because you said you want to keep bringing up God. So that's why we keep bringing up
No,
God.
I don't want to
It's
bring up
because you keep
God
saying
yet.
foreknowledge.
Okay, what I mean by foreknowledge is that I know what it's going to do. Right. So in this scenario, I have foreknowledge. Right. So in this scenario, I have foreknowledge of my child and what they're going to do. Right? Is that the scenario that
I
you're
agree with
creating
you.
for me?
I agree with
Okay.
you.
Okay. And then you're telling me, if I create rules, does that make the rules pointless? My answer is yes. My rules are pointless because I already know that my child is going to do it.
You're saying they have no value because your child is going to go against it.
Mm-hmm. What's the value of a rule there?
The value of the rule is the value of the rule again is better understanding. You can have knowledge and not understanding, if you get what I'm saying.
Why is understanding valuable here?
Is because knowledge is knowing what you're going to do. Understanding is experiencing the things that you went through
Okay.
and knowing why you don't want to go through it again.
Okay, I think you're getting lost in the sauce here. So when I'm saying what's the value of a rule here, and you're saying the knowledge, and then I ask you what's the value of that knowledge, and you're saying, well, you know what you're going to do in that situation. That doesn't apply to the rule itself. That applies to your decision making. So what's the value in the knowledge of a rule in this instance?
The value of the knowledge of the rule in this
Mm-hmm.
instance is that you know what is good and evil.
But that doesn't influence what you're going to do.
Yeah.
It does if you know that it affects you physically, mentally, and other people.
Okay. So it doesn't, so me creating a rule to my robot doesn't affect its decision making because I already know what it's going to do. Right. So a good way to think about it is that
Foreknowledge again. We're on the subject of foreknowledge.
yeah, I know what it's going to do before I create it. Right. So a good way to think about it, just in the context of this conversation, is that the knowledge that my robot is going to drop kick infants, I knew before, like obviously I knew beforehand. But that decision that my robot makes to do that action is set in stone. Okay. That action does not change unless my foreknowledge is wrong. That action does not change. So me creating rules about it doesn't change that action. If I do or if I don't create rules, it does not change that action.
Well, of course, it doesn't change that action.
So
Of
what's the
course,
value?
it doesn't change the action that was done. What is needed to be done after the action is, of course, said punishment for it. But again, what I'm trying to say is that just because you create something and it
Mm-hmm.
goes against what you intended it to be, doesn't mean that, oh well, you are fully responsible for that thing going wrong, even though even then
Why?
you had the foreknowledge. Sorry,
Why?
say it again.
Why?
Why?
Why? Mm-hmm.
Why? It's
Yeah.
because if you create, okay, like you said, you got this robot, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it knows good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
That means it can comprehend what it is doing and it know it is evil, right?
Uh-huh.
It does said thing, goes against your rules and principles, and you're telling me that this robot does not have a shared responsibilities in the actions that is doing?
I
If
don't think
anything,
you
then you
I
can
don't
say
think
that
you
everything that you're
understand.
doing and saying
Mhm.
you're not responsible for.
Okay. So I think when I say that the robot is responsible, I mean it in a very specific way. And that responsibility is different than the responsibility that's held by the creator. So they're not the same level of responsibility. So when I talk about the robot being responsible, I mean that robot should have a consequence, right? That robot should be shut down. That robot should be disassembled, right? That programming should be obsolete. Okay. Um, that's what I mean by responsible. But it's a much lesser responsibility to me than the responsibility of someone who's just creating robots that cause harm. That's a much greater responsibility than the robot that was created to do that harm.
All right, okay, I got you, but I'm a little confused in my mind. So, can you help me with my confusion? If we're going on based on responsibilities of said actions, and then you yourself aren't responsible for your own actions, because God
Why?
foreknew everything that was going to happen.
Yeah. So the one who's ultimately responsible would be the creator, right?
So again, you are not responsible for anything that you've done ever in life.
Nope, that's not what I said. So
So
just
are
so
you
just
responsible
so
or
just like
not?
yeah. So in this scenario, right? We are the robots in this analogy, right? And God is me, the creator, right? So in the same way that this robot does this harm and is found responsible, it's a different level of responsibility than the one who's pumping out human beings that are causing harm. Right? Like there's a difference there. So that, I mean, we can pivot over to God now. I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to flush
I'm
out how you're determining this 50% thing and what you're using to measure responsibility
that's
of said robot.
and and that's where I'm saying where I would say in a sense I'm confused at, because if you're saying God is responsible for all the actions that every person does on this
Hmm.
earth with the knowledge they do and everything, then
Hmm.
again you're still a robot doing everything that God does. So
Hmm.
again, if I ask you, if it's a simple question really, are you responsible for anything that you do on this earth?
Yeah, in some sense, I am.
Okay, so is the robot responsible in some sense of what he did to that person?
Yeah, I'm feel like I'm
Okay,
repeating myself for the third time. In a way, the robot is responsible. In what
we
way
agree
did
on
I?
that. We agree on that.
In what way would I say the robot is responsible?
In what way?
Hmm.
Well, that's up to you. How would you say? You said that that you
Yeah.
agree that it shares some type of responsibility. How would you say why?
Yeah, I would say that my robot is responsible because this is a robot that's chosen to do this harm, right? And so the robot should be disassembled, right? But the one who is ultimately to blame is the one who's pumping out these robots that do this harm. the
So
I,
again, God is more responsible.
yeah, I think so, Zena. Yes,
Yeah, I
God
agree.
is
I agree
ultimately
with.
more
Sorry.
responsible. Yeah, I'm just so I've had this conversation hundreds of times with people. When somebody says 50-50%, I think people just say things just to like say things. And so I want to ask, what made you say that? Right? I want to dig deeper. What led you to 50-50%? And what do you mean by the robot is responsible? So that's what I mean by questionings, right? I'm
Oh,
just
okay, okay,
inquisitive, trying to understand why you think that way. I
okay.
don't disagree that the robot is somewhat responsible, but it's a much less responsibility than the one who's creating robots that cause the harm, right? Would we agree?
I don't know. I still believe it's a 50-50.
Now
I
we
can't
don't
agree
know.
on that.
Why? Why
No,
is it
I said I don't
50-50?
because it's like this. When you come to terms of knowing what is good and evil, and you choose what to do, there's this thing in your brain that totally starts to like, well, forget about the consequences. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Like say if you want to get in a fight with an individual, you're not thinking about going to jail. You're not thinking about your family. You're not thinking about none of that. You're blocking out all that other aspects, everything, to focus on what you want to do right now.
Can I
But
ask you a
ultimately,
question?
you will have to face those consequences.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
I just don't.
Yes.
Sorry. I just want to know. I just want you to know, Leon. I was listening, but I just don't think that answers the question why it's 50-50.
It
Go
doesn't.
go ahead. Go ahead, Zena.
I was just gonna ask, like taking the case of like, because it seems like you're stuck on like humans instead of actually addressing the God. But like, I don't know if we're gonna bring it down to earth. Like, say a parent, right, who um, has a pew pew, right, and does not secure the pew pew, right. They tell the child, "Hey, don't touch this. It's not good." The child absolutely understands right from wrong. They understand what pew pew safety is. They have been taken to the pew pew range, all that good stuff, right? But the parent still does not secure the pew pew in a lock, safe, or anything, right? The parent knows that the child has access to the pew pew, all that good stuff. Now the child takes the pew pew to school and pew pews his peers. In the eyes of the law, the parent would be responsible because they did not secure the pew pew, right? Do you agree with that or not?
So are you saying we're a bunch of children walking around? Oh, sorry.
If you think that's what I said, then you're not
Oh no, sorry,
listening.
sorry, sorry. Okay, no, sorry,
You're
sorry.
listening
You
to
did say the
respond,
child.
but you're not
Sorry,
absorbing
no, you
it.
did say the child did have the knowledge of the gun and everything. Yes, yes. So
Okay, and the
are you saying
parent
that the
would the parent be responsible for leaving the pew pew out?
is the parent responsible for holding it, keeping the PP
Okay,
out? Yeah, sure.
excellent. And is the parent responsible for allowing access to the child?
I mean, sure, yes. No,
Okay.
and as it knowing
Yes or
what
no?
to
Yes
do
or
and what
no?
not to do. Yeah,
Just yes or no?
yes, yes,
Okay. Excellent,
yes.
excellent. In the eyes of the law, would the
Uh huh.
parent also, along with the child, be prosecuted? Yes or no?
I mean, yeah, according to the law,
Okay,
yes.
excellent, excellent. So that there is basically what board is saying, right? Eh, The child has
So
some.
what
Hold on,
what
don't cut
law are
me
you
off.
holding God to?
Don't cut
Sorry,
me off.
sorry.
Don't cut me off because you did that to board, and I don't like that shit. She's more tolerant than I am, so don't do that with me. I'm trying to understand why you don't understand, right?
So
Just
you're
because shut the fuck up, best friend. Dead ass. I don't want to mute you, but I will. I'm trying to understand and don't have a preconceived answer or notion, right? Don't have an answer ready for me. Just wait. I'm not going to tell you the law because the law doesn't fucking matter. In general terms, we know based on previous cases, right, that yes, the child will have some responsibility, but the parent also has responsibility for allowing the child access to the pew pew. The parent is facilitating that scenario of the child possibly unaliving his friends, teacher, whatever at school. That's my point. Your God, right? puts evil, good, whatever, right? But he has responsibility in this. And on top of that, he has the foreknowledge. He already knows, right, what that pew pew is capable of, right? He knows that, hey, maybe he's giving the child lessons in right or wrong, right? But it's still a possibility that it could happen, right? And in fact, it did happen, right? With even all the pew pew safety lessons and all that shit, it still happened. So now, if you want to bring God into it, that's fine. But you have to give God his omni properties. You can't take that away from him, right? We can't do anything to make God wrong. God knew that the child was going to pick up the pew pew, go to school, and do whatever he did. And he didn't stop it. So I don't understand why you're confused and you can't move beyond that level of understanding. You can speak now.
Okay, good. All right. So the confusion happens is when we're totally just disregarding the fact that the person did that action with the knowledge of good and evil.
Okay,
That's where we
all right.
disagree.
Tell me in my example where I disregarded that, because I obviously said that both were knowledgeable, right? I obviously said that God puts good and evil inside of both of them. When did I disregard that? You're not listening, and that's your problem. That's why you can't answer board.
Does that count as a cutoff?
It does. I did cut you off. I don't care about that. Yeah.
So are you responsible for that action?
Are you a dickhead? Are you responsible for being a dickhead? Like, if you want to get weird, I can get weird. I'm not trying to get weird, but I don't know. Are you
See,
going to engage or are you going to be a dickhead? Which one? What are you going to be responsible for in this moment?
I was. Can I answer now?
Are you going to be a dickhead? What are you responsible for in this moment?
I'm responsible for me in this conversation.
Excellent, excellent. And in this conversation, are you going to be a dickhead or are you going to engage? Which one?
I am engaging by
Okay, and are
using
you going to be
real.
Are you going to be passive aggressive or are you going to engage in the actual conversation? Which one?
I'm engaging in the
Okay, then don't
conversation by
don't que-
using real.
don't question me and don't tone police me. Engage in what I talked about in the example that I gave.
I'm literally answering the question with real life situation with me and you.
Okay, then
By
I don't give a shit about that. That's not what we're talking about. You're too slow to pick it up. And that's why you can't keep up with what board is saying. I don't know how much we have to break it down for you, how elementary we have to make it, right? I don't understand what point we're arriving to if you can't understand the concept of foreknowledge.
I know the concept of foreknowledge.
You're not exemplifying that.
I think it's for its turn. I cast my
Oh, okay.
pearls
Are you
before
done?
swine.
That's fine. Are you
Yeah,
done?
it's good.
And your
It's
mother's swine. Are you done?
my mother's what?
Yes, swine, swine, swine.
You're
The word
saying
that
my
you used.
mother's swine?
Yes, yes, Leon. Yes. If you're gonna call people swine on this panel, I can call your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother.
Okay, you have a blessed day.
Okay, then you have a terrible one.
Cook.
I don't know. Be weird with me. I'll be weird with you. Don't be a bitch, baby.
Okay. What's going on? Controversial. But
What's that? You can call me Coco.
okay.
What's controversial?
What?
I think
Let's
it was
talk about.
calling me.
Oh.
Yeah. But listen. If I create a robot and give it choices, but I know it's going to harm people. So I would have to ask, how do we know the robot is going to harm people?
Um, I mean, like typically, like technically, like it's a hypothetical, but I mean, like I guess, like let's say that you, let's say that you're programming a robot and you're putting like a guaranteed program in the robot where like it's destined to like harm people, like it's programmed to literally harm people.
Right, right. So like I'm thinking in a literal sense, because I think it's interesting because AI is doing some things that would really, you know, be a good example with this. But obviously, you could have the creator program an initial code that, makes it able to harm people, or like say the code is less the thing. Maybe it's like made for, you know, harming people, right? So like say, I don't know, maybe you made an advanced AI that could, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. So like, and like it would be analogous to like God is like, creating humans that like it's literally like the inevitable that they're going to sin. Like they
Right.
are made to literally like make that choice, and he
So
knows exactly what choice they're gonna make.
the question is, where does that code come from, really? Because there is a code within humanity. People can do tremendous harm to one another. That is clear. History shows that one. So it's a question of if God created us with that code, or if something has intervened and corrupted the code, because that does happen within robots. Viruses and stuff. So it's like that's what the Bible itself says, right? It says that God didn't make us initially with any of these issues, right? But through sin, right? Through the action of free will, being able to choose otherwise, right? What Satan or Lucifer, what he offers is simply just another choice opposite to God. And as God being the good, right? He is, well, evil. And so that's why it's a choice in the matter, right? So it's a question of, if God made us this way, right, and set up Satan, right, or because that would be on the table too, right, because he is all knowing, foreknowledge would go to him too, with the fall with Lucifer. So that would be the question, right?
Yeah. So like yeah, like that's actually like awesome that you said that. So like I can literally like change the analogy and make it more like one to one with like the story. So let's say that like I'm a creator and I create a robot, and initially like I create the robot with like no intention of it like doing harm, I guess, right? So like Adam and Eve in the garden, they're born, they haven't like committed a sin yet. But then me as the creator, I also create a robot that's programmed to deceive that robot and like and mess up its coding, right? So it's going to send this robot messages that's going to cause the robot to make a decision which corrupts its nature, and the robot becomes like this sin manufacturing machine. And I know all this is gonna happen, like because it's just the way that I designed like the robot. So like essentially, like, am I at fault for creating at first innocent robots, but also like other robots that are going to influence that robot, the innocent robots, and like corrupt them and make them like make bad decisions and corrupt their starter coding.
Right. So you would be at fault if you yourself are puppeteering these actions throughout the scenes, right? So like that's a big thing. Some people don't believe God is acting. Some people think he is acting, and he does, actively create bad people. So that would be one thing. It can't be both, right? Either he's proactive or he is inactive, right? Steps aside, or he is actively doing things. And so again, it has to go with the character of the God too. But what's it? The main thing is, yeah, was Satan, right? Did God make Satan that way? And that would also be clear. Bible doesn't say that God made Lucifer bad. He chose it out of his own free will. So that would be the question of, if God himself is the origin of sin, right? Evil. And then that would, if he is, well, then he would be responsible for it all. But if he
Yeah,
isn't, well, then it's just a matter of who is responsible for it.
I would say
So
like I would say like God is responsible for it because like he has the knowledge. He knows that it's like set in stone that like Satan is going to corrupt the code of Adam and Eve, or like encourage them to break away from their original coding. And God still like sets it in motion. Like God, like before God creates anything, and like it does kind of get wonky because like God exists outside of like space and time, but like there's no difference between past, present, and future, and so he has to step into our timeline and create at some point. Um, like when he does that, he knows that like the Holocaust is going to happen. He knows that like Genghis Khan is going to happen. He knows Adam and Eve are going to eat from the fruit because he puts the serpent in the garden with them. God knows these things, and before he creates, he sees all of this, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck it," and like flicks the first domino, and like lets it all like start happening. So I would say
Right.
like I would say like God knows like the entailments of these decisions, and like yeah, he would be 100% responsible.
So we'd have to ask the question of what his intention is with creation, right? Because if it's just like that, well, then this God is clearly just a he's stepping back and he's just trying to watch chaos ensue, right? However, there's a lot of ways or reasons why God wouldn't do this, just out of simple logic, right? So it's like the God of the Bible, right? He is an omnipresent, multi-omni being, right? And so we Christians, we believe he's all capable and doesn't need anything. And so, from that logical deduction, right, he doesn't have any reason to be evil, right? He doesn't need anything. And when you think about the nature of evil, it is to gain, it is to, steal, cause harm, but with for your own, reasons. He actually doesn't have any possible reason to be evil, as he is a non-needing being, right?
Well,
So
yeah,
that's
like I don't think there needs to be like a reason for doing evil,
well,
right?
there is.
Like there are people who are like psychopaths who literally like unalive people, and like the police ask them like why did you do it, and they were like nothing. Like
Right. They
some say
enjoy.
nothing, some say like for fun, some say like like I don't know, I was bored.
Right.
um I don't think there's any necessity there. Like God could just be creating a universe and like have no reason for creating this universe. That could be the case.
Well, then that would be illogical, right? And that the other thing is like he is the source of all knowledge and logic in our worldview. So if that word could be consistent, right, he truly wouldn't have or gain anything in doing that,
Well,
right?
yeah, but whenever you say like it's like illogical, that would suggest like a logical contradiction. So like, I mean, like I don't like I wouldn't say like a P
Right.
and
It is illogically it's illogical for a being that doesn't need anything to be evil. So it's like, let's say he enjoys it, right? That's what we're posing, right? He just simply enjoys it. If he's good, right, and he is the source of good, because he would still need to be the source of good. That's where that contradicts, right? If he is good, he can't enjoy it, right? And if he can enjoy it, well, then he's evil. But if he's evil, then he can't be the source of good. So they can't be both, right? So it would either have to be there is something else that is, equal with God, as in the beginning, that there's also evil, and he can somehow tap into that. But then that would be an entirely different worldview, right? An entirely different religion at that point. So
well,
it's
yeah.
like that's the issue there.
Wait, hold on. But to address you saying like it's illogical for him to like create like an evil world or be like an evil god without like any reason. Like, what would be like the P and not P? Like,
I'm
like
sorry.
so like to for something to be illogical, there would have to be like some kind of contradiction entailed. So
Right.
like so whenever you say
Source
like
of
God, like
contradiction.
whenever you say like God couldn't be evil and have no reason for being evil, like what would be like the P and not P for
Right.
that contradiction?
So he's the source of good, right? So either he is not the source of good, right, and then he's evil, or he is the source of good, and then he can't be evil. Because if he enjoys evil, like in any capacity, just for the sake of it, he doesn't get anything from it. Because as we described, he doesn't need to. Using your example of sociopaths or psychopaths that truly just enjoy it or truly do not have a reason, right? They get off on the satisfaction of their evil deeds, right? So that's what we're posing this God to be. He would not be good in any capacity. He could not be the source of good. So at that point, then there would have to be another source of good, right?
Are you
Separate
guys
from this God.
are you guys talking about God's motivation? Is that what you're talking about? His motivation for
Yeah.
creation?
Or
Yes.
like or if it would be possible for God to like want to create a world with evil for like no reason, but like there's no contradiction there, right? Like God could be the source
But
of
how do
good
we
and the source of evil.
well, how do we truly know God's motivations? We only know the parts and pieces that he tells us.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
why
He
should we
would.
assume that we know in totality his creation? Or his motivation.
Well, like
Well,
I
there's a
would
lot of
grant that
emphasis
like
on
I can't truly
evil.
know God's motivations, but I mean like looking at like the
Well,
actions that
how do
he
you?
partakes in, like I mean to some extent you can see like there might be something entailed here or something that's hinted at in regards to like what his motivations may be, but we can't know 100% for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, we
so
know what logically
how do you
follows from
know?
the creation itself.
Right. I mean, that is a question. I don't mean to segue, but like, there's an idea that you can't know. But if as in the Christian worldview, we believe God is trying to actively speak and communicate. And of course, we believe the prophets, Jesus, and all that. So it's like, if that is not the case, and
What
these
does it
aren't
have to do
accurate
with his
things.
motivations being good or bad?
Well, obviously, his act of communication gives you a clear way to know his motivations and see his personality, right? And as he is, if he is the active source of the universe, the whole thing, right?
Mhm.
There aren't other gods, right? Well, then that's clear. That's a clear way to peer into why and what he's doing, right? I mean,
Okay.
obviously, the Bible is filled with different accounts and stories of why he did this, why he's doing that, right? So there's ways you can
But
correlate
not,
and figure out his motivations.
I think there are ways to figure out and assume his motivation in terms of creation, but I don't think that we ultimately get that answer from the Bible. And if we conclude that his
Of course,
motivation
not
is that of goodness and that of positivity, well then the state of the world as it is contradictory to that.
right. So it's not, you don't get it from just the Bible, which is the problem many Christians make. And they are very blind in faith and they don't use logic to try and weed out these issues because you all are bringing up very good questions. So I've been waiting.
Well, hold on. I want to hold you to something. What do you believe God's motivation is?
I believe he does want a perfect creation, but I think people confuse perfection because I believe, I'm a Christian and I believe God is perfect. I don't believe that perfection entails you have the ability to change, to learn, right? And to really enjoy life like we would want to. And I think that was an issue that God encountered when he wanted to make us because he wants the best life for all of his creation. However, with the ability
Okay.
to choose separately from him, it creates a paradox, a dilemma,
Mhm.
right? If he
Does
is good,
perfection
right?
entail flaw?
No, there's no flaw in protection or in
Imperfection.
perfection.
And do we see a flaw in our nature?
We're not perfect. We weren't created perfect.
Okay. So then his motivation is contradictory to the state of the world.
Well, so he created us good, right? And as in the
Hold on.
Bible,
Hold on. You said that God's motivation for creating is that he would have a perfect creation.
he
Well, the
wants
state
a perfect creation, but there's an issue with
is,
it, with free will.
I understand. I understand. Which, and is God aware of this? Is God omniscient?
Yes.
Okay. So God knows that there's a flaw in free will and he gives us that flaw.
No, that's a
Okay.
logical issue within the actions that you can choose otherwise,
So
right?
how do we get free will?
You just have it by amount being built in his same image, right?
Hmm.
So
So
in our
God
world,
gives us that.
right?
Okay. And free will is flawed because it gives us the option to do the bad thing. And God knows that we will do the bad thing.
No, it's not about the knowing, right? There's steps to this, right? So
It
it's
is.
like if we start over, right? Start from the top. Before there wasn't bad, right? Satan, he is the origin of the bad things as he chose to, rebel against God and he chose to make right sin. That was when sin came into being. There wasn't sin before Lucifer, rebelled, right? Lucifer wants to take us away from God. He wants to be his own God, as in you can choose otherwise. So he is the one that actually orchestrates and actually is the author of all of bad actions, right? Not to say that it's all blamed on Satan. Of course, we do horrible things, right? But
So
if
so it's your perspective that Satan is the author of the sin. He's the one who originates sin.
yes, that's what the
Okay.
Bible says.
And that originates from just his own nature, who he
Not
is.
his nature. It is strictly the ability to choose, right?
Okay.
Free will.
And who gave him that ability to choose?
Obviously, God.
Okay. So still ultimately God, not Satan then,
No,
where this flaw, this ability to choose and him knowing that giving his creation this ability, he knows that they will choose that bad.
so we'll use the robot because that is a good example, actually,
Hold
right?
on. Can you, this is, I'm not going to let you pivot again. Okay. You pivoted away from my initial refutation to what you're saying when I'm just asking for clarity, and you pivoted to Satan. where my same refutation and where I'm still asking for clarity is still existent. Can you just respond to me directly?
Of course. Can you clarify your question, please?
Yeah. So you're saying that it's free will that gives us the option to choose these things, and that when we take advantage of the free will, that's where sin enters the picture. But
That's
free
where it
will
came.
is, it's where it came from, right? Is that what
Yes,
you were
that's
gonna
where it
say?
came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Hmm.
Now, if that's where sin came from, and God gave us that, God gave us the ability to choose freely. Okay. And he even has foreknowledge that he knows that we will choose the bad. He knows that Satan will choose the bad, right? How does that not mean that he's not ultimately responsible for that creation? Like, how do we dictate motivation from that?
Okay. So it's two things. How does he know? And then how are we predestined to sin? Right? That's ultimately what this comes
Um,
down to. Is he
no,
programmed?
I'm mostly asking for, so like, I see let me be very explicit, okay? You're contradicting yourself by saying that God wants a perfect creation, okay? Because he gives us free will, knowing that that will lead to an imperfection, okay? So
How does
there's a
he know?
contradiction there. Your motivation and your actions are contradictory. And the same thing is true for God. His motivation for wanting a perfect creation and his actions for enabling us to get this free will, knowing what we would do with it, is contradictory.
Can you allow me to explain how he knows?
Um, does it change his knowledge?
No, but it does give
Okay.
clarity on
Then,
why he doesn't act,
okay. Does he know before he creates us?
of course.
Okay. So then I want you to engage with the contradiction that I see in your worldview directly.
Right. So I must ask, what are you looking for here? Right. I'm
Are
genuinely,
you able to answer any of her questions like
I'm looking
directly,
for
or like?
no,
sense to be
I'm asking
made.
for clarity on what the issue
She's
is.
made it very clear. Like, I don't understand what you don't get. She's broken it down like 3 times to like a toddler
Right.
level.
You think that because God gave us free will, then ultimately that is why we're responsible, or why He's responsible. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you understand what free will entails. Now, I
Sure.
could be
Tell
wrong,
me.
and I would ask for
I I
clarification.
also just want to be clear. This is like the third pivot away from my question being answered.
I
Um,
haven't pivoted. I'm trying to
okay.
elaborate on what and
Okay.
how this works, but we're actually not
Sure.
even discussing anything.
Sure.
I really,
What
want
can
to know.
just to keep it in mind, what's the contradiction that I'm arising
Right.
that I'm
So
presenting in
you
your
are
own worldview?
presenting, right? You're saying there's a contradiction, but I have not seen one. You're saying because God gave us free will, right? Then ultimately He is responsible for the things we do with the free will, right? But you're not accounting for the active cancer virus that disrupts our free will, and
Okay.
ultimately it's not even free will that's the problem. It's what
Okay.
we can do
That's
with it.
not the contradiction that I presented. Okay. I'm gonna say it again. Okay. The one thing that's going to contradict the other thing. This is the one thing. You've said that God's motivation for creating is that he wants a perfect creation. Okay? That's the one. The contradiction is when he chooses to create and gives us this free will that inevitably leads to a flaw in our nature, which means that him wanting a perfect creation, right? His motivation and his actions are contradicting each other.
All right.
That's the contradiction. Can you address that directly, please?
Okay, so now I see you're bringing up the issue of our current state in this world, right? And how there are problems, we do things, right? If God wanted the perfect world, well, then why do these perfect people, or supposedly they're supposed to be, why do they do
Sure.
this? I see.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the problem, right? Through free will, right, we can continuously do and choose wrong, right? He's trying to perfect our mindsets and understanding of why good is good and why bad is bad, right? If you understand why good is good, you will never choose. But that is the issue within humanity, right? You can
Hmm.
grow into this world, right? You come in, I think we all are born innocent, right? You can be born innocent, but because you are ignorant, you are pretty much lost when you get into this world. You can
Okay.
do good, but you can always fall into bad situations.
Hold on
And
one
then on
second.
the flip side, right?
So
People
I
can
want to
choose.
be clear. I want to be clear. The point that you're making is that because we learn from it, right? We become perfected through these trials and errors to learn more. Okay,
No.
so be explicit, please.
Right. So ultimately, the reason why free will is a problem is because we all need to understand why evil isn't good, right? This was the dilemma with perfection.
What
Right?
are you
That
talking
it doesn't
about?
that doesn't
Can I
matter to me.
explain, please?
That doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me.
I
When
haven't
you're
finished.
I'm asking you to be explicitly direct, because this first like statement that you're
Okay, I
making
think the
doesn't
issue
actually
is you all
address.
want a simple answer when you're trying to
I'm
understand
I'm
this
asking for you to
question.
be as
I must
direct as
ask: are you trying
possible.
to ask and understand this through the Christian worldview or through just
I'm
Now
just
you
trying to
said
understand it from your worldview, right? Like
okay? Well,
right.
these
then
two
can I
things are
please? Can
contradictory.
I?
God's motivation and how he actually executes that, right?
Right.
There's a
So if you're gonna
contradiction there.
question the
Stop
Asking
interrupting her.
like answering like why free will is necessary doesn't answer or eliminate the contradiction itself. Do you think
And
that
also,
you
like,
can explicitly, please, like directly reconcile that contradiction, please?
can I answer, please?
As long as you don't interrupt her again, and if you keep going in circles, best friend, she's going to ask you to clarify.
I'm
You're
trying to
beating around the
clarify,
bush,
but the
but you're
issue is,
not. You're not. You're
yeah,
not. You're not.
one, I'm cut off when I'm trying to give my
Because you
Okay.
are not going
So
down the path of clarification. That's
you are
why.
saying that,
so
like,
you don't know
I
that.
so
can have
here's
different
so here's so here's what's gonna happen. Okay, I'll just because my wife is calling me. Okay, I want to listen to what you have to say, but I'm not gonna listen to a long tirade again. Okay, so I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds. If you can explain how it's not a contradiction, that would be perfect. And then I'm gonna let Nika have it. Okay, just because my wife is calling me. So go ahead.
All right. So first thing I want to
Hi,
explain is
Mars.
what good looks like, right? Because controversial brought up a good example earlier that I want to
Okay,
go
so you're
back
not
to.
addressing that. Thank you. My
No,
wife is calling me.
I
Okay,
wanted
so
to ask
what
that.
it would look like doesn't reconcile the contradiction at hand.
You said
Nice
you would
try.
give me 30 seconds, but you didn't give me 30
Boy, do you
seconds.
understand what the question is?
I understand the question, but can
Can
I
you
please
repeat it back to me? Just because I'm new here. Can you repeat back what
They're
Boy is
asking for
asking
a
of you?
clear and simplified answer. It's not clear and
Of
simplified when you
what?
don't
An
understand the
answer to
Christian
what?
view. Right. Why does God, allow for us to do these horrible, horrible things, right? How can God be good,
I
right?
don't believe that's her exact question.
I'm obviously paraphrasing, right? I'm just giving the
Yeah, but can you
summary.
just repeat what her actual concern is in your worldview?
Her concern is she thinks there's a contradiction between God and his supposed good nature and then the flawed creation and humans that we see, right?
Okay, sure. And your answer is?
Right. So I had 30 seconds, so I'm going to get that 30 seconds.
You're
So
gonna
Are
get
you?
it if
Oh,
she
are you?
interrupts you. She's gonna fucking interrupt you. Like I don't know why you think you're pulling any type of rank
I'm
He's
here.
not
putting his
trying
foot
to
down
pull.
on me.
Board wanted to
I'm
give
trying
you
to
that
answer the
before she
question.
went to take care
He
of her
said, I'm the
wife.
If
daddy.
you're asking good
Like dead
questions,
ass.
I
Like I
would
don't
like
know
the
whose daddy
question.
he thinks he is on this fucking panel. You got to take that bass out your fucking voice.
I don't know
You're not
what,
gonna get any type of seconds if
ma'am.
you
I'm
don't
not
want
Tina,
to
trying
you
to be
have
heard
it.
rude.
bass?
I'm not trying to
I
be
didn't
Like
hear.
rude
I
or
didn't hear any
shut
disrespectful
bass.
up.
about it. I'm actually just trying to answer your question
Okay,
by
well then
listening.
answer
Very,
it
very high
and calm
pitched.
that shit down.
Right. So if we're not going to be respectful, I don't really think
Answer
we can do
it
this.
and calm that
Void,
shit
Void,
down.
listen, Void. I think that is highly disrespectful that you understand the question and continuously avoid it, right?
I'm not
So
trying to
let's
avoid the
not. No,
question.
I understand, but
So the issue
let's
is
not
you
bring.
all don't seem
Hello,
to
I'm still
understand the
talking.
Christian
I'm still
worldview. And
talking. Do you hear me talking? Let's not bring up disrespectful. Let's get back on the topic. Let's not wham cry baby. It's okay. Please, here I'm gonna start your clock now. 30 seconds. Okay? Do you know how to unmute? Go ahead.
So 30 seconds. All right.
If we want you to have it, go.
Is she a mod? Can you actually give me
I
30
am,
seconds?
I am, I
The clock
am,
has
I
already
am. One of the
started.
oldest mods here. I
I
am.
know that, but like
God,
I
I know that
am.
you can do that
you got it.
One of
online.
the
The clock has
OGs. I
already
am.
started.
Want to see
Time
it.
is ticking.
Okay, so the reason what I wanted to go back to controversial, he had brought up a good point, right? As to why God doesn't just make us all perfect initially, right? And so that's a great question because it does give clarity on his issue when he was creating us, right? So the reason why God didn't just make us perfect with the ability to, choose, right, with free will and just make us perfect is because free will, right, in and of itself doesn't necessitate understanding, right? The knowledge of other options doesn't necessitate that you understand why it's valuable, right? And why it's not something you want to do. And so that's ultimately the issue, right? We live in a world that we sin because we do not know the repercussions of the actions, and we live in a world where we can be corrupted, and ultimately we can love to learn sin, or learn to love sin rather, right? Because ultimately we can live in a world where sin, right, ultimately can just, well, shoot, it can be perceived as good, even though it hurts people, even ourselves most of the time, right?
Okay.
So
It's at
great,
least been 30 seconds, Lloyd, and you have once again failed to address the issue.
right.
Like
So you all
I'm
about
confused by your purpose up
Nika,
here
right?
if you're not wanting to
Controversial
engage.
and the board, they've been great. I don't
Why
know
do you
why you
want to
want.
engage? Why don't you want to engage? I'm confused.
Like that crying shit can like
All
go
right,
against
you
words. Like
all have a
answer the
nice
question
one.
or like
I've
shut
loved,
Okay,
up.
I've loved the
bye.
questions. You all
Okay,
be
bye.
Bye. Bye.
controversial. I love your questions.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
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 The
Hi, Nika.
hell? Hey,
Was that Nika?
Mm-hmm.
Coco.
Oh, wow. She gets a hey, and I get a
Of course he
Coco.
does. Who are you?
Debater, editor, debate host on TikTok.
Debater. I'm done.
Bruh.
Is that a job title? I'm joking.
No, I'm kidding. No, like it's not a job. TikTok doesn't pay me yet,
I know you. It just is real official when you say I'm a debater.
bro.
Devoted is next, they said.
We trying hard.
Hey,
Hello.
Devoted.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Are you a Christian?
Yes. Yes.
How old are you?
31.
Let's
Damn.
go.
No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
wow.
I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
Yo, insert the meme, like
You're not
Kevin
even that
Hart.
much older than me. Um, if I created a robot and give it choices, but I know it's going to harm people, am I responsible?
No,
Why not?
because I'm assuming that we're comparing this to God, right? Because that's what my
Sure.
answer is contingent on. It's contingent on it being God.
Well, let's try to answer just the question itself, and then we can loop it back to God once
Okay.
you know it.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
I am responsible.
Yes.
Why would I be responsible?
Because you created a robot in a world full of people that you knew was gonna harm those people. So you would be, to blame if people say, that robot, made me fall or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
I made that robot, so I would have to take accountability for the fact that, yeah, I did. I made that robot.
So it was because like I knew it would, and I created it. It's like both of those, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so how is that unlike God? What's the
Okay, well,
difference?
because if I was to create a robot in a world full of people, I'm not the creator of the whole world as we know it. I'm a creator of this one thing inside of a world that is different from the whole world, that goes outside of
Mm,
their capabilities, outside of their knowledge, and um,
yeah, I
I
understand. Why does that matter?
well, it matters because I guess what I'm gonna say is that how God, let's say it's a world full of robots. God created a world full of robots that
Hmm.
like Void was saying, have free will. Like we have free will and everything. And I think that the biggest part about these conversations is that this isn't the end all be all. This world we're living in. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hold on, because you touched on a few things there.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you said it would be different if God created all robots.
Yeah, well, if I created all the robots in the world,
Yeah.
then it'd be
Then
different
then
because
I would be less responsible if I created all the robots and there was
yeah,
only robots. Why would that take my responsibility away?
because you guys are all on even playing field. Like you guys are all the same. You guys are all made the same. You guys all have free
Right.
will to make the decisions that you want to make amongst each other
But
and
how does
deal
that
with the
affect my responsibility? Sorry.
well because And like I said, like touching on. Okay, so let me start there with what you're addressing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if a robot was complaining about another robot, this robot hurt me, and I'm sitting there like, dang, like that is messed up. That robot did you like that because I made it and I made you too, but I knew that was gonna happen to you, and I allowed it to happen, and that's all bad. I guess you can't say that that's my fault.
Yeah. So you said, like, to the original question, you said, I'm responsible because not only did I know and not only did I create, it's that I created and I knew, right? It was the combination of the both, right?
Yes,
That's what you said
yes,
made me responsible in the initial question.
yes,
So in this scenario with God, God already knew, right? You believe God is all knowing,
yes, yes,
and you believe God created everything.
yes.
So then that combination is there again. So I'm trying to understand why. First of all, I don't even know if I would agree that we're all on even playing field, right?
Right, right.
But also, like, even if we were, how does that take away from the responsibility of knowing and creating?
Now, okay, so what if I was to say it doesn't take away from the responsibility? And what if I was to say that as the creator of these robots, I don't care if you blame me. Like, I don't care if you blame me for this.
Well, we can go to God now. Like, we don't, like, the purpose of the question was just for me to understand, like, how do you think responsibility works in creation and foreknowledge, right?
Yeah.
So now we can go to God and we can. So you're saying, like, why would God care if he's responsible? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you might go to God and say, why did you let all this stuff happen? Why are you, if you created all this stuff, you knew all this bad stuff was gonna happen in the world, then
Mhm.
why would you allow this stuff to happen? And that's when I come in.
Well, I think it matters because there's another claim in the Bible that says that God is all good. Do you believe God is all good?
Yes.
So then that would be a contradiction,
But
right?
what do you define good
God.
as?
Well, how do you define good?
Whatever God says is good.
Oh,
Wait, hold on,
so
wait.
even if God says a bad thing, then it's still
Right.
good.
Like eating babies is like he says a lot of things. He said everything that he created was good. He created good and evil, right? He causes people to eat their babies. He causes prophecies to happen where people are raped, right? He causes a whole genocide to happen. When if he says that's good, then you're just taking a subjective definition of the word, right? You're not actually applying it objectively, right? You're changing the definition, and that's not like good faith argument
I
at
hear
all.
you. I hear you, but he never calls those things good. He calls those
Yes,
things
he
a
does. He said
curse.
no. He says everything that he did in the beginning is good. That's what he
The-
said.
and that wasn't happening in the
But
beginning.
but you also just said it was good, right?
Before
Said
sin entered,
But
that was good.
you said everything that he does is good, right? So if he's causing people, right, to suffer a famine, it's good to him, right? If he's unaliving his child, it's good to him. If he's telling people to sacrifice the firstborn, right, of every animal, including humans, it's good to him, right? You're trying to change the definition to make him not be evil.
Right, because he's not evil. Did he do all those things to Job?
Did yes,
Yeah.
well,
yes,
yes,
he
Whoa.
used
He
yeah,
did
he
he did
did
those things.
actually.
yeah, like he used Satan as an adversary, right? He literally caused and facilitated what happened. Like you got to think before you just start spewing things, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing happens outside of God's view.
Will.
Well, I have a pretty simple question here, Devoted.
Okay.
So you know the verse that Zeno was referring to where God said he created good and evil, right?
Yes.
So then by your own logic of good meaning anything that God does, then is evil good
Um
if God created it?
no, I wouldn't say that evil is good. I wouldn't say
So
that
then
evil is good. If it's opposed to, he made good and evil, that would show that it's a difference between the two.
definitely. So
So,
then
yeah, go ahead.
not everything God does is good, right?
But again, I don't feel like it's God that's doing those things. I feel like he allows the adversary, which is Satan, to do things to people. He'll let people, do their own thing. Like, okay, you don't want to walk with me, then hey, like
Yeah.
you
But
go
even
here.
saying he allows it gives him responsibility, right?
Wait, hold
Okay,
on.
like in the terms of the robots that we talking about, yes, maybe we can say that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with saying that.
So God is responsible for harm then.
I wouldn't blame him for harm, but
Okay, hold on. Did that other guy ever explain the contradiction? No.
no.
He got mad at me and then said he was leaving.
I'm out of here. Okay. Yeah, that's that
Yeah.
guy. Okay. I'm so frustrated at that because like how whatever. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go on. I'll listen
He didn't have
before
an
I
answer. That's why
interject.
he kept going in circles because he didn't really have an answer to it.
I couldn't tell if he like was purposely not seeing the contradiction or
No,
if
he saw
he
it.
or if
I
he
made
just
him
didn't have a
reiterate it.
contradiction.
He saw the contradiction. He just didn't know what to say about it.
Sad to
But
say.
but devoted. So if we're saying that God is responsible for evil existing, and also He created everyone, giving
Yes.
them the ability to do evil things, and He knows for sure that people are going to do evil things,
Yeah.
and you're saying, yeah, He's responsible for it.
Okay, and if you're saying it with that stance, then I can understand why you take that stance.
No, but I'm asking you, like, you're agreeing that then, yeah, like God is responsible for evil then.
No, if you want to blame God and say, like this is your fault, then I feel like you have the free will to do that. You know what I
No,
mean?
but I'm like asking you, like, do you agree with like what I just asked?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay,
agree
can you
with
explain to
that
me why?
because I feel like I said, he made us all. Let's say these robots. He made all of these robots and he put them here
We're
on
stuck
this.
on this robot thing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy.
Okay.
So he put them here on this earth. You know what I mean? And the end
Mhm.
goal is not to like be judged based on this world. He's trying to find the good robots out of the batch. He knows that there's going to be bad things that happen inside of this world, but the ones that overcome this world and get through all these things that's going on, and it's basically a test, you know what I mean?
Test
And
for who?
A
the
test
ones
for
that
who? Who is it?
a test, say it again,
Who is it a test for?
these
Yeah.
robots.
So
No.
us, it's a test for us.
Yes,
But
yes,
but
exactly.
but why would God need to test us if He already knows the outcome?
Because he's trying to figure out who's gonna he's trying to figure out who's
So
gonna
he's
get.
not. So then he's not all knowing. If he has to figure something out, then he doesn't know it already. So he's not all knowing.
Okay, well, that goes into the whole
Yeah.
theology of God, and I like to compare it
No, you're
to.
you're weakening God. You're constraining him, and that's the only way you can make
No,
this
I'm
make
not
sense. Yeah,
constraining him.
you are. You are. You absolutely are
How am I
constraining.
doing that?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. If you're saying that your God needs to test somebody in order to receive new information, then you're taking away his omni properties, right? You're taking away his ability to know the future when your Bible clearly states that he does, right? He exemplifies that all the time, just like you're denying him the credit of
No,
creating
don't say
evil.
that.
You are.
Don't
Don't
say
don't
that.
don't correct me if you're actually doing it, right? I wouldn't say
But
it
I'm
if you
not. Does the
were
teacher
actively
give their
doing it.
students tests?
Why would the teacher need to test the student? Tell me
Is the
that. Why
is
would
the
a teacher
teacher
need to do
on
that?
our teachers all knowing?
Because they need to pass the test.
But
No, the
our
teacher's
teachers.
trying to gauge information, right? They're trying to learn and assess where the student is out. If your God is all knowing, he already knows where the student is at. That's silly and it's contradictory.
All right,
Like,
man. If you want to say that, then that's fine, But I'm not
no, devoted.
downplaying God and His
Just wait.
omnipresence, His
Just wait. We don't have to.
omniscience.
Hold on. We don't have to devolve to like you could say that. Like the purpose is to discuss, right? Like we're challenging your worldview here.
Yeah.
So I think she's presenting a fair question. If God already knows the answer to this test he's giving us, he already knows how we will perform in the test. What is the utility of the test?
You still have to go through it, and you still have to do it. You
For
still
what
have to.
for like why though? Like for what purpose? Not for God, right? Because he already knows how we're gonna perform.
Right, but what he's doing is he's creating us. He's still fine tuning us. Everything that we do, everything that we go through, he's giving us tests in order to see how far we've. And I'm not saying that he's not all knowing. Like I know my God is all knowing, but what I'm saying is that in order for us to overcome certain situations, we have to be tested.
But for what reason, right?
Because he is constructing us in a way where we get one goal completed, then he puts us through another trial, then we get through that trial, now we're tested again, then we
But
get
he
through that.
already knows though.
Yeah, but for us, we're not where we need to be. We're not where we need to be in
What does that
totality.
do for us?
It makes us those good robots, I'm telling you, that he's looking for.
He wants good robots?
I mean, like
We're using the analogy of robots, right?
No, we're not. I tried to move away from that like 15 minutes ago. No, we're just talking about people and God.
Okay, so in order for us to be at the point where he wants us to be, when we are in community with him, when this whole world is destroyed and everything's done away with,
Yeah.
he wants us to be a certain way. So in order for us to get to that certain point, he's working hands on every day of our lives in order to fine tune us. Like if you're making a sword, you're
So
gonna put it through heat.
why didn't he
You're
just
gonna
make us that way then? Why did he create evil if he didn't want us to do evil things? He could have just not created evil.
well,
Like he could have literally made everything else the same, just no evil. And then we could,
yeah,
I
hands
guess,
on.
for whatever reason he thinks that's necessary, even though he already knows what we will choose. But like there could have just not been evil. Why create the evil if he doesn't want us to be evil?
Well, that's just a question that I can't answer. I'm not God. Like,
But do you think that makes sense?
I understand where you're coming from, but
So
you kept,
okay, acknowledging that there's like some higher understanding that God has, that I know you believe that. Okay, but on your understanding, does that make sense?
what part that he allows evil.
That God made evil in the first place if he doesn't want us to be evil.
Yes, it makes sense to me. You want to know how?
Yes, I would like to know.
Okay. Well, I feel like, by him creating free will, he gives us the choice to choose him. And he, like, let's say, he's good.
Okay.
You know
I
what I'm
understand what you're
saying?
saying. But devoted, do I, if like with my free will, can I just like decide to fly?
No, you can't like make
So there's
decisions
like
outside of your
restraints.
capabilities.
There's like restraints in our free will, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so then why didn't God just like add an extra restraint, which is that no evil? He just doesn't create evil, and we have all the many billions of choices we have like within the context of no evil, just like we have them in the context of no flying.
Okay. So can I explain that with an analogy?
Okay.
Okay, so if you had a boyfriend, right, or a girlfriend, whoever you choose to be with, right, would would it be fair to say, why would there be other people in this world? This is the, like, if I
How
was,
is that an analogy for choice?
let's just say I'm someone's boyfriend, right, and I'm mad at the world because why are there other men on this world? Like, I wish that I was just the
Yeah,
only man
but
here. I want
what is the analogy?
the
Like,
analogy is that she has to choose me out of all these people in the world.
no, she
All these,
doesn't.
I'm saying, in
She
order
could
for
choose
me
a
to
woman.
know that she loves me,
She could
if
choose like billions of other people, even if you were the only one.
exactly, that's my point. Exactly. But she chooses me.
This
But
falls
she
apart.
chooses.
Yeah.
Okay. This falls apart with your God. See, again, you're weak, and this is why I said you're weakening your God. You're constraining him. You're taking away his properties, right? Your God already knows. He has foreknowledge, right? That you're either going to choose him or not choose him. You can't make him wrong, right? Like God already knows. He has foreknowledge, right? That you're either going to choose him or not choose him. You can't make him wrong, right? You presenting that she's
Fine.
ultimate. Hold on, knowing that she's ultimately going to land on you no matter what is just silly. It doesn't make sense. Your analogy falls apart, best friend. You got to do something better with that.
Yeah, I think like here's the issue I'm having, which is like the same one that Void like kind of failed to address, is like God already knows, and there's like some reason why we still have to go through all of this, right? But like, what is the purpose of the evil? Because we could still have a test. Like, say, concede to this whole test theory. We need to be tested for our own sake, even though God already knows. Like, why did we have to? Like, why did some people have to suffer in this test? Like, why did He create something that is so against His own nature? Because that is kind of a contradiction, right? Like if he wants us all to be good, and then he creates this thing that is like the opposite of good, like why do that? Because we could still be tested without it, right?
No, we can't be tested without it. How can
Why?
we be tested without it if that's the only option? If he's the only